Greetings. Welcome back. A change of scenery once again. A low-level character. A new face. Yes. Just leveling another character, as if I need any more of them. Decided to why not record it. Perhaps even give some friendly advice from someone who has leveled, 26 characters? 25? Something like that. I am going for a mage here. Now, normally, you would want to level as what you want to play as, just to get a feel for it if you're new to the game. But when you're already 2 or 3 characters deep, you can just start leveling with something that is easier and quicker. For example, a full strength warrior is the most direct way to level with some full defense gear. And the reason for that is warrior gives a lot of health to you. With every stat level gives you some health and defense, and you have a lot of free health and some elemental resistance on top, meaning that if you go full strength, which is where most of your damage comes from, is will and strength for attack and magic, or magic and attack respectively. Yeah, if you use these stats for your damage, you don't need anything else, especially for warrior, because warrior has so much defense plus your defensive gear, which you would want to aim for magic defense because you don't have any of that on the warrior tree. It's easy, very quick, mindless even. I would say anyway. Mage, a full will mage, full damage mage, not the best. A lot of the heavy hitters are physical damage, and you don't have much of that, and you do not have the health from warrior. So you do have magic defense, but that's not really a big issue. In the early floors, it's more of a concern at like floor 8, floor 7. That's the wrong screen. Way up here, it's more of an issue up there, but not really just yet. That's why warrior tends to be easier, because you got your physical defense, you got your health. You don't need much else. But yes, I would say if you plan on making or want to level as a mage, I would recommend going half endurance and half will, as you see here, just for the extra bump in defense. And especially for mage, I would recommend, instead of going all the way through the mage tree as you level, take a detour and go over here and get Life Surge and Wind Wall. Not only are these 2 skills really, really good throughout the game, especially Wind Wall, but having a second healing skill is also handy. Guardian stat points, as you can see at the top, are the best ones in the game, giving you health, defenses, and a bit of attack or magic. But just having Wind Wall and an extra heal while leveling makes the world of difference. And, plus you get some defense from the Guardian along the way. And then you can finish out the Mage tree, whichever path you like. Or at least that's what I would suggest. For Rogue, I've only leveled the Rogue once. And it seems to only work if you do the same thing as the mage here, but go with half strength and half endurance. Because I mean, you have a decent amount of attack from No Mercy here. That's a lot of attack for early game. Uh, but yeah, there are no defensive stats here, and you can't rely on your crit. You can kind of rely on your agility, because that does help a lot in the early game. You do tend to outspeed things a lot, but uh, you don't, you're not quite to the point where you can one-shot things like you can in the end game. Uh, so yeah, just having half endurance seems to work rather well. And also with every build, I usually go with mostly defensive gear. Warrior, it could be a little lenient and uh, get some like damage gear, even though you don't need it, because the gear while you're leveling in the early game don't really give you much in terms of damage, but they do give a decent amount in terms of defense. That's why I would suggest that. But probably should get some heal power as well if you're our warrior or rogue. It helps. Yeah. Also to note, something that would help out your leveling is focusing on elemental power here. Because you may not have a lot of damage early on, but just having elemental power is not only is it a multiplier, but it's practically free. The only thing you have to worry about is, having all the pieces the same element, or most of the pieces the same element. And don't worry if you have like the wrong stat on a piece of gear, like using the stuck dagger as a mage. Like, you can ignore the 9 attack. Like, it's not gonna make a big difference. Like the 7 magic you'd get from the staff there. I'm using it for the defense, not the damage. But yeah, now this character is halfway through floor 4. That is around the point where the game really starts to become difficult. First 3 floors are pretty simple. You breeze by them. No big issue there. I would say floor 5 is where the difficulty sort of. I would say it gets a smidge easier. Floor 6 is when it goes up again, and then floor 7 is where it takes a huge leap. But floor 4 is like the first difficulty spike. But yeah, just like I said, go through all my points of leveling. Definitely get some endurance, unless you're a warrior, in which case you don't need it. Would definitely recommend having 2 sets, depending on what path you are. I guess the general rule of thumb is that Earth tends to be pretty neutral. Earth and fire. Because, there are some enemies that resist those 2 elements. But at the same time, they are kind of few and far between, and you can kind of use Earth in Dungeon 1 and 2. Same with fire. It kind of depends on what floor you're on and all that. Yeah, but that goes up to floor 6. Floor 7 and 8, they have very defined weaknesses in those floors, but floor 6 and below is kind of all I would say random. Oh, he bails me out. But yeah, things like the werewolf sentries here is a good reason you would want defense. They hit hard, and they debuff your defense even further. Which may be even worse than it sounds, because if I'm not mistaken, buffs are flat. Buffs and debuffs are flat numbers. Like, I thought they were percents for the longest time, because it would scale to the end game, right? But no, they have flat numbers apparently, which would make sense because the -1 and +1 buffs and debuffs do make quite a difference in the early game, which is also why these like skills like critical shooting and concentration and on guard for warrior, you'd use those more for. I mean, I guess you use them also for their defensive capabilities, but also for the damage because it does make a difference on damage. But yeah, as you can see, not too bad on the normal floors. Now, I will say I have tried leveling characters with full will on mage and full attack on rogue. They can still do these normal floors rather well. But it's where the player made dungeons are where they tend to struggle a lot. And I mean, don't get me wrong, player made dungeons are still difficult even with decent defenses. But I seem to have more success with just having half endurance on non-warriors. Just make things a little easier. Because leveling it goes by a lot quicker if you do your player-made dungeons when you can, and do the floor below the one you have unlocked. Because it still gives a decent amount of XP, and plus it would be easier to go through. Like it won't take as long as the floor you're on. So I should be doing these floor 3s as well. If I have time for it, I guess. But yeah, a nice laid back leveling. I know people have some hard times leveling in this game. And I mean, I understand. I was like that too. But the main thing is just having good defense, because even at the early game, enemies will constantly crit you and constantly evade you, and the only way to survive that, to soften the blow of that, is having good defense. That's a pretty good example there. Cracked wall hits pretty hard there. If you didn't have any defense, if you just went all attack, that wall would like one-shot you at this level. But because I have some decent defenses here, didn't quite do that. And because I'm a mage, I got to heal, because it puts an earth blight on you and you can burst heal with the healing light. That's a mage only thing, I guess. Warriors have or not protection. They used to have that. They have on guard, which means that wall would hit for even less, so it wouldn't really hurt them as much. And rogues, I mean, they got nothing, but they got lifesteal, I guess. rogues really do have the short end of the stick in terms of not dying. I mean, they got damage, I guess. That's what they're made for. But yeah. And also keep in mind that I am a solo player. You level a lot quicker with multiplayer. Not only because there are more monsters to fight, but also it's free. Like these charges have timers. You can do multi all day for as long as you want, and there's AI in the game now. These fine fellows over here will aid you doing multi. And, you just level on that. Not a big fan of it because of how slow it is, but yeah, it works. Works rather well. Yeah, I mean, I would say use certain elements in certain dungeons. I guess a good rule of thumb, like 4 to 6, the mid game, I suppose you could call it that. Dungeon 1 use fire, because nothing resists fire in Dungeon 1 as far as I'm aware. Dungeon 2 use air or earth. Air mostly. Air elemental gear is mostly rogue gear. So if you're a warrior or mage, it's kind of hard to build up on. And plus, they got no defense on air gear. Um, but fire, not fire, earth, and I guess fire, earth, and water. They all got some good defense gear for them. But yeah, Dungeon 2 definitely air is better because nothing resists air. But earth is also good, except for a few steam dwarves resist earth for some reason. The steam dwarf weaknesses and strengths are kind of a little random. Some resist earth and are weak to fire or water when they're naturally supposed to be strong against fire and water, but they trade one of those resistances for weakness and get earth resistance instead. It's all over the place with those guys. But yeah, not too shabby. I guess I'll do a quick challenge run. Not too confident in this. Definitely go for an easier floor. Although, I mean, I know what these enemies are. That's going to be tough for me because I have an earth weapon and there's 3 enemies that resist earth there. I could try fire, but that 1/4 enemy is going to be hard to kill. But, I'll try it out. Why not? Yeah, this guy, Root Blight, does do magic damage, as far as I know, and he does hurt a lot. Probably mostly because he reduces your magic defense, which at this level, a -1 debuff, still significant. Yeah, not the best start. Wolf Blow Sentry. Yeah, I mean that's what they're known for. That Wolf Blow, like best skill in the game. But one benefit of Wolf Blow is that, well, reducing your physical defense, it also makes it so you heal more. On your percent based heals or your normal heals. Heals that are based on your max health. I'll go with that. Well, he's got a. Okay. I'm guessing werewolves resist fire now. That could be a thing. You see, the dev, Roy, your boy Roy, does like to change things subtly with the enemies and not tell anyone. I'm starting to wonder if he gave some fire resistance to those werewolves, because that should have. I mean, it would have killed them there. At least it should have. This is the guy I was worried about. He doesn't have much damage, but I'm not going to hit him well with these fire skills because he resists fire. I'll try, though. I'll try, but yeah, I'm not going to make it, I don't think. Unless I evade, and no, not quite. But yeah. Also to note, this is a very RNG heavy game. Don't go in expecting victory all the time. Because you will get unlucky and die sometimes. It just happens. You get used to it though, and playing builds like the ones I tend to make, which just have a decent amount of defenses and sustain. The RNG is a lot less prominent when you can take hits and still dish them out. I guess that's one thing I forgot to mention about Mage. You have easy access to bursts, which is a flat multiplier on the damage you deal if you can do them. I would say bursting as a mage is not as good in the early game because enemies tend to counter a lot in these dungeon floors. Whereas in Grand Dungeon, they never counter, so you can burst away to your heart's content. But you can't enjoy bursting. Okay. You can't enjoy bursting until then. Okay, that was greed there. I didn't see my health going down that low. I could have healed multiple times there, but yeah, I'm gonna start with the thing I said earlier and get these two because it makes leveling just a lot easier. This is going to be I mentioned before, full heal bard because I've heard those are pretty good. And I mean, I know how the character is going to end up like. I know what it's going to play like, but why not see for myself? Besides this house here, the house of tanks, they don't have a healer technically, and I made three houses. No, not Fire Emblem. I made three houses. One of the damage dealers, one of the I would say healers, but they're just mixed passive builds that just happen to have heals. And then this is the house of tanks. The only pseudo healer here is the mage guard, which I guess is kind of a really good healer, but you know, a bard and druid have an extra heal that guardians don't. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it's something, I guess. But yeah, this was just a look at leveling. Pretty laid back if you know properly have some defenses and sustain. Sustain. Oh, that was weird. But yeah, I think that's all I can show. I mean, I'm out of time here, and these floors are just easy. I just spam like magic ball through these, and they're easy. But yeah. Oh, you know what? You know what? Gear. Also, to note, don't go too crazy on gear. I would say if you see something that is a major upgrade, then yeah, go for it. But you're going to need some of these materials. Like I would upgrade this water shield because it's a good shield. This I mean this shield at level 5 is really good. It's 18 physical defense, 19 I think. In case you didn't know, level 1 to level 5 is double the stat, so you can tell what it's going to be if you're level 1 or if the gear's level 1. But yeah, that is a direct upgrade. And if I wanted to go with the water set, this will help my water damage as well as my defenses. And water cores aren't hard to find, especially in the 5th floor. But yeah, save or don't just upgrade willy nilly because you're going to need some of these materials later on in the game for these recipes here. I mean, depending. I mean, I don't know what you're going to want to use for food, but you want to save food for the end game. You can no longer level up with food like you could in the old days when food was the way it was and the market was around. So yeah, just get upgrades that are big, but don't upgrade willy nilly. Do that when you're like already at the end game, I would say, because the leveling it's grueling if you go into it blind and don't really know what's going on, and then when you're at the end game and you don't have any ingredients, it's gonna make the grind even worse. But yeah, I guess that's all. That's all the show here. I'll see you around.